What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and ZCASH is in major trouble. So, coming into here, taking a look at Twitter, we see Lark Davis here posted. Get that out of the way here. ZCash's entire core team just resigned. The ZEC token is down 20% on the news. Is this the end of the privacy meta? Now, a lot of people will argue that Zcash was really private at all, as they didn't really shield transactions, and the majority of their transactions weren't private. So, we'll kind of look at some other things about that in a minute here. But the point here is if you Google that, I was like, what's going on? What is he talking about? Is this just a Twitter post for, engagement, or is something actually happening? And here, a quick Google says the entire core development team of Zcash ZEC, known for the electric coin company ECC, resigned in Massey on January 7th, 2026, which was yesterday, following a governance dispute with the nonprofit board Bootstrap, which oversees the project. So that is pretty crazy. So I came into here and, I found an article, and Zcash's main developers quit without warning. Zcash faces its biggest test yet. So let's kind of take a look at this. And if you guys just bought a $10,000 Zcash miner, I'd be very worried right now. All right, guys, coming into here, Zcash, ZEC, one of crypto's most successful privacy projects. Now, this is up to a lot of speculation. Obviously, the king OG is Monero when it comes to privacy. And it sounds like even some Wow Nero, which was just a fork of Monero, was even more private. And I don't even know, like maybe Zephyr is more private. I have no idea. But coming into a 3-year-old Twitter post right here, I guess this is Reddit, not Twitter at all. But a few days ago, I saw on this, which meant to address some criticism of Zcash, I saw some things which I'd like to respond to. So the issue is not what Zcash can do. Indeed, Z2Z transactions are very private. So obviously it is saying there are private transactions. It can definitely do it. But the actual problem is how the shielded and transparent pools interact with each other in ways which severely damages the privacy of shielded transactions. Since the overwhelmingly vast majority of transactions and volume on Zcash are transparent right off, but the crowd is hidden and extreme tiny compared to, say, Monero or even a tiny joke coin like Monero. So it is saying that, well, the steps are there to be private, but the majority of the transactions aren't private at all, meaning anything that's pretty much happening, it's not there. Everything is pretty much wide open because no one's using the proper shielding methods, and it's the amount of transparent right off the get-go in the crowd to, compared to something like Monero or even Wow Nero, which was just a joke coin fork of Monero or something like that. But we can see that Monero is obviously dominant in its privacy transactions on the amount that's actually going through. So the majority of Zcash transactions aren't even private. That's been happening. And continue on, just kind of skimming through here. And even then, most of the few private transactions are deniamizable, if I even said that right, due to interactions with the transparent pool causing privacy leaks. There's research to support this. According to this one article, relatively simple heuristics reduce the size of the overall anonymity set by 69.1%. Granted, this article and the paper it's referencing is quite old at this point, but nothing has fundamentally changed in this situation, considering it's still the case that only a few small minority of transactions are shielded. And then kind of coming on to here, Zcash provides a false sense of security. Many people will hear that this is a privacy coin and assume that their transactions are private. Yet, almost all users will be dealing with the transparent pool, even if they don't realize it. Even if someone knows that they need to use shielded addresses, they're often only used as a mixer of sorts, and the funds are soon sent back into the transparent pool. This type of behavior is common and usually traceable, as shown by previous research. Even users who are knowledgeable on Zcash and prefer shielded addresses can be easily defeated by this weakness. So they have aspects for privacy now. Since this was 3 years ago, I don't know if things have changed. Maybe there's been upgrades and things like that, but it's looking like it's hard to be private, and most of it points towards no privacy at all. So, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. And obviously, if you have more updated information on how that haul works, let us all know down in the comments as well. But let's continue on now with this article. All right, so now back to one of crypto's most successfully, possibly privacy, maybe not projects, was riding renewed momentum into 2026. Then, almost overnight, its core development team walked away. On January 7th, ECC here, the primary organization responsible for developing and maintaining Zcash, resigned in its integrity, triggering a governance crisis that has shaken confidence across the ZEC ecosystem. The abrupt exit marks for one of the most dramatic leadership ruptures in the project's history, raising fresh questions about governance, funding, and the future direction of privacy focused cryptocurrencies. It's not really about that. This is about Zec. Monero is the king of privacy. They have some amazing updates coming in to make it even more private and help even bad nodes become private. Like they got some stuff happening. Monero is obviously the king, and it's CPU mineable, so a lot more consumers can mine it because everybody has a CPU at home, not these ASICs that you require for this. And then on top of that, it sounded like they also used to want to move to proof of stake, and I don't know where they are in the plans for that. Anyway, Zcash's core developers walk away here. ECC CEO Josh Swihart confirmed that the entire team stepped down after what he described as constructive discharge, a legal term used when changes to employment conditions leave workers with no realistic option but to resign. So pretty much the devs wanted to do something, and it's looking like the team ahead of it said, no, we're not doing that. So who knows what was happening there in the background, but obviously they couldn't agree with each other. And the dev team said, all right, peace. I'm out of here. See you later. You're done. Anyway, according to Swihart, recent actions by the board overseeing ECC altered the team's working terms in ways that made it impossible to continue development responsibility or independently. So that's interesting. In a public statement, Swihart said the board's decision amounted to malicious governance actions that prevented the developers from carrying out Zcash's core mission, building a privacy preserving cryptocurrency resistant to surveillance and censorship. So something was telling them, I don't know. So the head up, higher ups, whatever, because this is, I guess, company based coin, not just a couple devs and stuff like that, was holding them back from actually doing privacy stuff, is the way I'm kind of reading this. This was not a gradual departure or a disagreement between individuals. The entire development team left at once. So this is probably something that's been going on for a while. Probably since the pump happened. I bet all the pump happened and things were going on, and maybe people were making a lot of money, and all of a sudden heads turned, things turned, and then I guess the CEO corporate people, cha-ching, took over, and then they didn't care about their devs anymore. I don't know what's happening. I'm just speculating at this point, but it's interesting that they all left at once. So it's not like it just something just random happened here. They were been planning this for a little while, and what's been going on is the coin has been pumping for a little while. So I bet you there's definitely something money oriented in here, or maybe they were going to say, we're going to rug this coin very soon. How can you devs save it or come up with a future? So expect the price to go to zero. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, severing its formal relationship with ECC and its governing body. Behind the scenes, which is the major one, what was going on behind these scenes? Community discussions suggest tensions have been building for weeks as governance decisions increasingly clash with the developers' technical roadmap and principles. So, yeah, definitely the head of the company that was overseeing all this definitely had some different ideas, most likely due to the price pump. While specific board actions have not been fully disclosed, Swihart framed the conflict as existential rather than procedural. So, craziness going on there. So supposedly this is not the end of Zcash. We'll see what happens in the future though. But despite the shock, the departing developers insist that this is not abandoning of Zcash itself. So the devs, they're not abandoning the project. So Swihart said the team intends to regroup under a new company structure and continue building Zcash's privacy technology outside the influence of the current board. So I don't know how they have any contracts or anything set up. They have their board and stuff was telling them what to do. Now the devs are starting their own board. Like maybe they're going to be their own board. I don't know, but they're looking for a new leader, I guess, or a new team or a new company. I have no idea, but they're going to continue to work on Zcash somewhere. So I don't know. There's a lot of background stuff. I don't know who owns it, who's doing what, who's, anything that's going on there, but it sounds like they got some background stuff they got to deal with, obviously. But the Zcash network, he emphasized, remains operational and decentralized with no disruption to block production or user activity. Now, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or but about that because there hasn't been a new miner forever. People are turning hands. Bitmain is releasing new miners here very soon, but they're not going to release until Zcash is probably under $100 again in the next 5-6 months. So be very careful on pre-ordering those. Things are going to change dramatically over the next couple months, especially as crypto tails into that possible bear market. That distinction is critical. Zcash does not rely on a single corporate entity to function, and the protocol will continue running regardless of ECC's internal collapse. Still, ECC has historically played a central role in coordinating development, funding, and long-term research. In the short term, the split creates uncertainty around who will steward future upgrades, manage grants, and represent the project to regulators and institutional partners. Now, I find that kind of interesting as you have regulators as well as privacy coin. So to to agreements with the regulators is most likely not to be private. As we know, Monero has been getting kicked off everywhere and they continue to grow because people want the privacy, people want the coin. So that's very interesting there. They don't attune to the regulators. The regulators attune to Monero. You see what I'm saying there? But anyway, but this is another part here. Historically played a central role in coordinating development, funding, and long-term research. And obviously all this stuff costs money. So there's definitely something going on with the pump. And this has been planned for a while now because they all walked off at the same time. Anyway, some community members have described the episode as a full-blown governance crisis, one that exposes long-standing structural weaknesses in how Zcash balances decentralization with organized development. All right, guys, so market reaction and broader implications. So, following reports of the mass resignation, Zcash's price dropped sharply, falling from around $480 to near $420 within a day, a decline of roughly 11%. The sell-off comes after an exceptional year for Zcash. 2025, the token surged from below $50 to peaks above $600 before rolling back amid regulatory pressure on privacy coins and broader market volatility. Investors now face fresh uncertainty. Leadership turmoil adds another layer of risk to an asset class already under scrutiny from global regulators concerned about anonymity and illicit finance. That said, the long-term outcome is not yet clear. If the department developers successfully reestablish themselves and regain community trust, the shakeup could ultimately strengthen Zcash by removing governance structures seen as obstructive. For now, Zcash has survived the storm. Whether it emerges stronger from this one may depend less on price action and more on whether its builders and community can realign around a shared vision. And just coming into the current price here is the past 24 hours. Obviously, this is when all that took place. Looking at the 1 week, we could see how it was holding pretty steady and then it dropped, but it does seem to kind of be rebounding. It's going up and down from where it's at right now. So we'll just kind of wait and see what happens on the future of this moving forward. Well, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section about this whole Zcash thing. What do you think was going on in the background with the devs versus the company they're working for, as well as the privacy focus of Zcash the whole time? Yes, just like they said in that one article, we hear it's a privacy coin. You think, okay, privacy, but the majority of the transactions on Zcash weren't private at all, at least 3 years ago. If something has changed since then, let us all know down in the comment section. I will see you on the next one, guys. Hit that subscribe button, share this video around. I will see you on the next one, guys. Rabid out.